My name is Elena Vargas. I want to share with you the rollercoaster journey that has been my life. It all began in an environment of prosperity as the beloved only daughter of my wealthy parents. My father, Don Javier Castillo, was a highly successful businessman, while my mother was a renowned socialite famous for hosting the most splendid gatherings in the city. My parents made sure I never lacked anything surrounding me with love and care. As I ventured into university, my only goal was to make them proud. I devoted myself completely to my studies. It was then that Marcus entered my life. His persistence was undeniable. He waited for me after classes, brought me coffee during my long study nights, and one day unexpectedly appeared in our living room. With courage he addressed my parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Castillo, I am deeply in love with your daughter, and I want you to know my intentions are serious." My father saw in Marcus the son he never had and quickly became impressed. He even suggested I consider him as a partner since he seemed to have a promising future. Reluctantly I accepted. To my surprise, Marcus's charm and attention eventually won me over and our relationship flourished. Shortly after graduating we got married. My parents, especially my father, were delighted to see Marcus as the son he had always desired. At our wedding reception, my father gave Marcus a warm welcome into our family. He soon helped him start his own business, a modern car wash facility. He also helped us buy our first cozy home just a year after our marriage. Sometime later we welcomed our son into the world. Holding him for the first time awakened in me a depth of love beyond compare. I embraced motherhood with all my heart and devoted myself completely to raising Liam. Life settled into a predictable rhythm as Liam grew from a cheerful child to an energetic boy and finally to a thoughtful teenager. Meanwhile, Marcus began struggling with his car wash business. He felt overshadowed by my father's legacy and frequently lashed out, feeling belittled by what he considered handouts. Despite my efforts to comfort him, tension took over our home life. Arguments became frequent and I found myself walking carefully to avoid conflicts. Liam began to sense the tension at home and gradually spent more time alone or with friends. As the years passed, the stress and demands of motherhood left their mark on me, changing my appearance. I was no longer the slim young university student Marcus had pursued. He wasted no time pointing out my changes in a dismissive way, insinuating that I had let myself go. Despite the pain his words caused, I tried to justify them, thinking he was stressed and did not mean it. While dealing with these challenges, I realized the importance of finding inner strength and valuing my own worth despite the storms life brought. But as I faced the turbulence of my life, it became painfully clear that the foundations of my marriage to Marcus were crumbling. Then on an ordinary Tuesday I received a devastating phone call. A serious voice informed me, "Mrs. Vargas, I regret to tell you your parents were involved in a plane crash in Florida. I am so sorry, but they did not survive." The following weeks were chaos, filled with funeral arrangements and settling the estate. The process became even harder due to Marcus's surprising absence. When he was present, his attitude was disturbingly optimistic. Barely a week after the funeral, he began pressuring me about the inheritance. "Have you spoken with the lawyer? We need to resolve this," he said in a tone so indifferent it completely ignored my grief. His insensitivity shocked me. "Marcus, I cannot deal with this yet. I am still mourning," I told him. He replied bluntly, "Business does not wait, Elena. We need to know our financial situation." With great sorrow I scheduled a meeting with Mr. Harrington, our family lawyer, in his elegant office. The atmosphere was tense. "Mrs. Vargas, the will of your parents is quite peculiar," Mr. Harrington began. "It is divided into 2 parts. I can only reveal the first part now. The second will be revealed in exactly 1 year." Marcus leaned forward with enthusiasm as Mr. Harrington continued. "The mansion remains in the hands of your future grandchildren, with their guardians acting as trustees until they reach adulthood." I was stunned. Our only son Liam was not even married. Liam, who had insisted on attending the meeting, reacted with surprise and made a comment that sparked interesting possibilities. "That changes things," he said with a thoughtful look. His casual comment puzzled me, but before I could ask more, Marcus intervened, visibly annoyed. "Is that all? What about the rest, the businesses, the money?" Mr. Harrington responded firmly, "The rest will be revealed next year." When we left the office, the dynamic between us had changed noticeably. Marcus was unusually quiet while Liam seemed lost in thought. Not long after the initial reading of the will, Liam made an unexpected announcement during dinner. "Mom, Dad, there is someone I want you to meet." The next day he introduced us to a beautiful young woman with a cautious smile. "This is my wife and she is pregnant with our child," Liam declared. I was astonished. Wife? Pregnant? How had everything happened so quickly? Liam explained they had married hastily upon learning of the pregnancy. I looked at Marcus, who seemed strangely pleased, and nodded with approval. Something about the situation felt unsettling, but I decided to set aside my doubts and focus on the fact that I would soon become a grandmother. Happiness, I managed to say, struggling to gather some enthusiasm. This is quite a surprise. The young woman smiled widely. Thank you, Mrs. Vargas. I am very excited to be part of your family. She moved in with us shortly afterward, arguing she needed family support during her pregnancy. At first I was excited to have another woman in the house, but over time the home dynamic changed drastically. I could not shake the feeling that there was more behind this sudden marriage than it appeared. However, in the midst of the chaos and secrets, a new role awaited me, one that promised a different kind of love and connection. Soon it became clear that my new daughter-in-law had her own plans. She began subtly undermining me. Every time I could, she would make faces or comments suggesting I was doing it wrong. Her interactions with Marcus were even more alarming. She laughed at his jokes, touched his arm, and showered him with exaggerated praise, praising his business excessively. Marcus, as expected, enjoyed the attention and began spending more time at home, but not with me. He spent hours discussing business with my daughter-in-law while I felt displaced. I tried talking to Liam about his wife's behavior, but he dismissed my concerns, suggesting I was simply jealous because I was no longer the center of attention. His words hurt me deeply, especially thinking that my own son could disregard my feelings so much. Marcus, on the other hand, seemed to thrive in this new family dynamic, clearly enjoying the compliments he received. When he looked at me, it seemed to be with something resembling contempt. One day while grocery shopping, I ran into Camila, an old university friend. We decided to meet for coffee, and during our conversation she mentioned something that chilled me. She reminded me of a guy from our university days who used to pursue rich girls. Remember Marcus? She said. He was the type who ended up marrying a rich, naive girl. My heart raced as I listened. The more she described him, the more I realized she was talking about my Marcus. My stomach churned as I drove home, with my mind full of thoughts, realizing our marriage might have been a lie. When I arrived, I found Marcus in his study and confronted him with what I had discovered. At first he tried to ignore me, but a brief look of fear betrayed him. When I pressed, he admitted with a laugh that yes, he had married me for my family's wealth and had never loved me. His words were a devastating blow. He called me a burden and confessed with heartbreaking cynicism that he had only stayed with me for financial benefits. This revelation left me reeling. Suddenly everything made sense. With chilling coldness, Marcus revealed his true intentions. He no longer needed me. My parents had passed away, and their fortune, supposedly for our grandson, would soon be within reach. Though in reality it would be for his own benefit. The pieces fell into place, and the harsh reality of our relationship was exposed. Liam's hasty wedding, the convenient pregnancy of his wife, and the degrading treatment toward me. It had all been a calculated plan to inherit my family's wealth. You planned all this? I managed to ask in disbelief, my voice trembling. Marcus's harsh laugh echoed through the room. Credit where credit is due. It was mostly the kid's idea. He has a good head for business, he boasted, in stark contrast to how he had always belittled my intelligence. I felt like I was drowning under the weight of his betrayal. Does she know? I asked, fearing the answer. Of course she does, Marcus said with a mocking smile. She is smart and knows a good opportunity when she sees one. She will be a suitable wife for a businessman. I could not bear it anymore and fled the room. My world had shattered. The reality hit me like never before. I had nowhere to go, no money of my own, not even enough to rent a small apartment. With a heavy heart, I resigned myself to staying in a house full of people I could no longer trust. 3 months later, Marcus dropped another bomb. Pack your bags, Elena, he announced coldly as he entered the kitchen. We are moving to your parents' house. The news nearly made me drop the knife in my hands. When did we decide this? I asked, though his mocking laugh had already given me the answer. I had no say in that decision. That decision was not made together. I decided. We are moving in with Liam and Sophia. After all, our grandson is the heir to that house. Each word felt like a slap in the face. What about our house? Marcus shrugged indifferently. I sold it. The money has already been spent on things for the people I care about, and you are not on that list. In the following days, I watched in silent agony as Marcus, Liam and Sophia prepared excitedly for the move. They bought new cars, designer clothes and expensive gadgets while I was barely acknowledged. I could hardly bear the thought of moving into my parents' house. Everything felt like a cruel joke. When we arrived, Sophia claimed the master bedroom without hesitation and relegated me to a small guest room at the back of the house. As days turned into weeks, my isolation deepened. Sophia had her baby and quickly turned the house into her kingdom, making it clear that I was her unofficial servant. "Elena, the baby needs changing," she would shout. "Could you tidy the living room? It is a bit messy." Despite the pain, I found a small consolation in caring for my grandson. His innocent smile was a bittersweet relief in the midst of my torment. But one night about a month after the move, something happened that changed everything. During the dinner I had prepared, Sophia was especially demanding. "Elena, bring me more water and hurry up clearing these plates," she ordered. Something inside me broke. All the years of repressed frustration and pain poured out. I shouted, slamming my hands on the table. "I am not your maid, Sophia. This is my parents' house and I deserve some respect." The room fell into complete silence. Sophia's face crumpled, unable to respond to my sudden assertion of dignity. Then Sophia burst into melodramatic tears, accusing me of being harsh after all they had supposedly done for me. Marcus, with his face red with anger, declared he was tired of my supposed ingratitude. "Pack your things and get out of this house now. It belongs to our grandson and you are no longer welcome here," he announced. I was in shock, barely able to believe his words. "You cannot be serious. Where am I supposed to go?" I asked, my voice full of desperation. Marcus indifferently pulled out a stack of papers from his pocket. "I have been waiting for the right moment to give you these," he said, handing me the already signed divorce papers. "I want you out tomorrow." I turned to Liam, looking for some sign of support, but he simply shrugged, avoiding my gaze. "I am an adult now, Mom. I do not need you anymore," he said. I accepted the papers with trembling hands. As I left the dining room, Sophia's smile was the last thing I saw. My world was in pieces and I felt completely alone. With no place to go and a heavy heart, I dialed a familiar number. "Camila, my old university friend." She answered quickly, hearing the distress in my voice. When I told her I needed a place to stay, she immediately offered her guest room. While settling in, Camila shared her burdens with me. Her son was going through a difficult time after his pregnant fiancée had left him. Curiously, I asked if she had a photo of her. When Camila showed me the photo, my heart froze. It was Sophia. "I think I know who your son's fiancée is," I began slowly. I shared my entire terrible experience and Camila's face went from shock to anger and then to determination. "We have to expose them," she affirmed. Together we devised a plan. The next day I returned to my parents' house under the pretext of collecting my belongings. While there, I managed to obtain some strands of hair from my grandson for a DNA test. Waiting for the results was unbearable, but they finally confirmed our suspicions. Camila's son was the father of Sophia's baby, not Liam. While reflecting on how to reveal this to Liam and Marcus, I received a call from Mr. Harrington, the lawyer. He took me to review the second part of my parents' will in his office the next day. I listened with my heart pounding as Mr. Harrington revealed the content. "To our beloved daughter Elena," he read, "we leave our luxury apartment valued at $610,000. But there was more. In case of divorce, all properties, including the business Marcus was involved in, would return to me." It turned out my father had been the silent financier of Marcus's business and had registered everything in his name. As Mr. Harrington explained, I felt overwhelmed with emotion. All this time I thought I had nothing, but in reality I had everything. When I asked about the house Marcus had sold, Mr. Harrington assured me that was the only thing Marcus could claim. Everything else was mine. As the reality of my new situation began to sink in, I could not help but laugh. Marcus had thought he was being clever, but in the end his plans had spectacularly collapsed. In the end, Marcus had only made a fool of himself. When I first entered my new apartment, I was struck by its beauty. The place was elegant and stunning, with floor-to-ceiling windows and sophisticated modern furniture radiating modern elegance. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly at peace in what seemed like a sanctuary. While admiring my new home, my phone rang. It was Liam. "Mom," he began urgently. "It has been a year since we read the first part of the will. We need to know what is in the second part." His tone was demanding, even entitled. "I am sure Grandma and Grandpa left everything to me." His arrogance made me smile inwardly. "This is not a conversation for the phone. Why don't you come tomorrow? I will text you the address," I said calmly, and then hung up. Immediately afterward I called Camila. "It is time. You can come tomorrow. Tomorrow we will settle this once and for all." The next day I heard the doorbell and took a deep breath before opening the door. Marcus, Sophia and the baby stood there with their mouths open as they took in the opulence of my apartment. Liam whistled in admiration. "Wow, Mom, this place is incredible. I cannot wait to move in." Sophia's eyes gleamed with greed as she commented, "Yes, it would be very nice once we change all this old lady decor. And of course, once we get rid of you, Elena." I raised an eyebrow at her audacity. I would not be so hasty if I were you, I replied, inviting them to sit on the luxurious sofa. I excused myself briefly, and when I returned, Camila was with me. Her presence made Sophia fall silent. Before we discussed the matter, I began in a firm voice. There is someone I would like to introduce you to. This is my friend Camila. Sophia's eyes darted around looking for an escape, while Liam and Marcus looked utterly confused. Now I will continue. I think it is time we had a frank discussion. There are some truths you need to know. I savored the moment after rehearsing my words all night. The revelations I was about to make would change everything. While facing those who had betrayed me, my ex-husband, my son, and the woman who had almost usurped my place, I felt a wave of righteous indignation. Camila stepped forward and Marcus recognized her. His face twisted into a bitter smile. Well, well, he mocked. It seems I achieved my goal after all. I married a rich fool. Though his words hurt, I remained composed. We will address your betrayal later, Marcus. Right now there is something more urgent. I turned to Sophia, who squirmed under my scrutiny. We know the truth about you, Sophia, I said, turning to my son, whose face was a mask of confusion. When Sophia learned about the will, she saw an opportunity and decided to pass off another man's child as your own to secure your grandparents' estate. Camila's voice was firm as she delivered the final blow. The baby is not Liam's. He is my son's. The room fell into sepulchral silence. Then I presented the DNA test results. When the truth sank in, Sophia's face lost all color. In a sudden burst, she grabbed her bag. I do not need this. I do not need a beggar's child, she declared, storming out of the apartment. Liam stood in shock, still holding the baby, looking completely lost. Marcus, recovering from his initial shock, asked in a low voice, so who gets this apartment? I smiled, ready to enlighten him. Well, Marcus, let me tell you about the second part of my parents' will. I explained, detailing the benefits of the inheritance, the apartment, the car, everything. Marcus's face fell further with each revelation. Suddenly he knelt down. Elena, please, I am sorry. Forgive me, he pleaded. But his plea barely registered as I considered everything that had happened. The weight of his deception still lingered, but now softened by the justice of his crumbling plans. I could feel the tension in the air as I looked at him. My voice was cold and clear. Marcus, you have 2 days to get out of my parents' house, or I will call the police. Marcus stood up with a look of desperation on his face. He turned to Liam and said, Give me the car I bought you. I need something. Liam's response was quick and firm. It is not mine. You will not get anything from me. With a final look of frustration, Marcus slunk out of the apartment, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I turned to Liam, who stood there with his head bowed in shame. Camila stood beside us. I gently took the baby from his arms and spoke to Liam in a firm but not cruel tone. It turns out I do not have a grandson, and there are no other heirs to your grandparents' house besides me. I need you to move out as well. He did not look me in the eyes as he nodded. I am sorry, Mom, for everything. I will go pack my things. Without another word, he also left the apartment. When the door closed behind him, a heavy silence filled the room. The only sound now was the soft crying of the baby in Camila's arms. I looked at my old friend, feeling a mixture of emotions, relief, sadness, and a strange sense of freedom. Well, I said, managing a small smile. That was not exactly how I expected the day to go when I woke up this morning. Camila nodded gently, rocking the baby in her arms. You did what you had to do, Elena. They left you no choice. I sank into the luxurious sofa and my mind raced, realizing something important. For the first time in years, I was truly free from lies, free from manipulation, and free to live my life on my own terms. The months that followed the fateful confrontation were a whirlwind of change and self-discovery. I settled into the apartment, a place that became my sanctuary, a peaceful retreat where I could finally begin a new life. My first decisions were significant. Renting out my parents' house felt right, allowing a young family to move in, people who would appreciate the warmth and history of the home. The rental income provided a comfortable cushion along with the money I earned from selling Marcus's car wash business. My friend Camila also grew closer. We spent time together, having coffee, sharing stories, and offering each other support through the ups and downs of our new lives. And then there was the child once believed to be my grandson. Despite the painful circumstances surrounding his birth, I found myself increasingly attached to him. He has your eyes, Camila would joke during our visits, and we would laugh, finding humor in the strange, tangled paths our lives had taken. As for Liam, our relationship was a slow and cautious reconstruction. The betrayal had hurt me deeply, but he was still my son, and I could not completely break that bond. At first, our interactions were awkward, tentative phone calls and uncomfortable meetings in neutral cafes. But little by little we began to heal and painfully rebuild the relationship we had lost. Marcus, on the other hand, became a shadow of my past. I heard through someone that his once grand dreams of wealth and status have collapsed due to his exposed lies. I saw him only once by chance while driving through the city. He was working at a small kiosk and looked older and more worn than I remembered. For a brief moment our eyes met and I felt a flash of something. It was not love or longing, just a sense of closure. The light changed and I kept driving, leaving that chapter of my life firmly in the rearview mirror. And so life moved forward. With each passing day I felt more at peace, finally free from the chaos, ready to embrace the new life I had worked so hard to create. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.